Hey, good evening, good morning, depending where you are. Hello, hello. So glad y'all came to hang out with me tonight despite a little scheduling issue. If you're here, please say hello in the chat. Hey, Auntie Trey, what's up? Picky Girl Nation, that's y'all. I love that. I love that. Um, So yeah, if you're a little confused and you're like, but hey, wasn't there a different video scheduled for today? You are correct. I had a guest scheduled, but she was not feeling well. So we are going to reschedule because I think she was a guest who was on previously that y'all really, really liked. And I think y'all are going to be really interested in hearing what's going on with her now. So we are going to reschedule for a time when she's feeling better. So tonight, you just get me. And tonight, in honor of Financial Literacy Month, that is what we're going to be talking about, you and your money and controlling your financial future. Hey, I see. Southern Rose, Tia D, is this your first live? Welcome. Glad you could make it. Um, Typically, I go live at 7 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays. Although I will not be going live next Wednesday because I will be on a plane headed to the Exodus Summit meetup in Morocco. I'm still trying to decide if I am going to go live on Tuesday evening next week, but typically I should be live on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Every now and then, I sneak in a live on Fridays around 1 p.m. Eastern. So, um, that I'm glad you're here. If you haven't turned on notifications, do that so that you do know when I go live. Happy birthday, Greg. Another Aries. Y'all know I just finished celebrating my birthday. Um, So yeah, thank y'all for coming to hang out with me. All right. Um, what was I going to say? Oh yeah. Okay. So if you are new here and you're like, who is this woman? What is she talking about? I am Adelia Borashade, although most people on the internet know me as Picky Girl Travels the World. That's me. I'm the Picky Girl. And I travel the world sometimes, like I'm going to be doing a lot it seems like I'm going to be doing that a lot this year. But welcome to the channel. Glad you're here. On this channel, we talk about the intersection of money, travel, living abroad. So, if any of those topics are of interest to you, you are definitely in the right place and you should hit subscribe and you should turn on notifications because if you look through the videos on this channel, that is what we talk about around here. Um, I saw somebody asking about the meetup in Morocco. I leave Mexico City, where I live, on the 19th. I'm trying to get there for the 20th, but I don't think festivities like start until the 21st. So yeah. So next week there will not be a live on Wednesday because I will be on a plane. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'll be somewhere over the Atlantic Ocean. But tonight, in honor of Financial Literacy Month, we're going to talk about money. And there are a couple of reasons why we're going to talk about it. But I figured since April is Financial Literacy Month, that's what we should be talking about. And I came across this article that I want to share with y'all. Let's see if I can figure out how to do that. Um, because I'm using something I don't normally use. So let's see. Okay. Thank you for your patience as I work through my technological issues. Okay. Here we go. Oh, no, we don't wanna do that. I'm sorry, y'all. I It's been a while since I've shared something on the screen here. Okay, we'll go this way. Um, oh, well, I am in one browser, and the thing I wanna share with y'all is in another browser, and it seems like this program does not want to share it. Maybe if I do this. I'm sorry, y'all. I had not practiced this. Thank you for your patience. Okay, I think we are about to be rocking and rolling. And while y'all are asking about that, um, I think it's like an 11, 12-hour flight, the first leg of it, from Mexico City to Europe. Iberia flies from Mexico City to Madrid, and then I've got a couple of connections before I get where I'm trying to go. Okay, so, haha, here we are. Okay, so I saw this article and it really touched a nerve with me. This is from the CNBC website. Lack of financial literacy. How can I make thought I could make this bigger. I hope that's big enough for y'all to see. Uh a lack of financial literacy costs about 15% of adults at least $10,000. Okay. And so that really jumped out at me because of course, doing what I do, and I've realized I didn't say this in the introduction. I am a financial educator. I have made it my life's mission to help Black women, although I do help a few other folks, but Black women are at the top of my list to help them master their money, to take control of it, to become financially confident so that they can do whatever it is they want to do. If they want to travel, they want to open a business, they want to move abroad, they want to move into a cave, whatever. I want to make that happen for them. So I think financial literacy is very important, but I hadn't really thought about it in terms of how much it might be costing people not knowing or not having financial literacy skills. So that's why this article stood out to me. Okay. So CNBC wrote their article about a study, a report that the National Financial Educators Council did. And that report said that 38% of individuals said that their lack of financial literacy cost them at least $500 in 2022. 15% said it cost them 10,000, and that's up. In 2021, only 11% of adults in the US said, "Oh, I don't know what I should about finances and it has cost me $10,000." And so here is I do love a bar graph. Okay, so this gives you a breakdown. And I as surprising as these numbers are, these are people self-reporting. So I would think these numbers are probably higher. And so think about think about all the ways that not understanding finances, not having strong financial literacy skills could hurt you. Um, And when we talk about financial literacy, we're talking about the ability to understand and effectively use financial tools. Can you budget? Do you know how to manage your money? Do you know how to invest? All of those kinds of things fall into it. That also includes things like, understanding interest rates when you take out a loan or when you get a credit card, that kind of stuff. Okay. And This, of course, underlies the bigger issue, I think, which is a lack of financial literacy. Now, there is the TIAA Institute. Um, they give out like a survey, a quiz of 28 money questions. The most adults could only get half of the questions right. Okay. Um, 23% of the people who took this survey, this test, couldn't correctly answer more than 7 out of the 28 questions. Okay. And so, again, we know there is a lack of financial literacy, but I know I had never thought about it like putting a dollar amount on how much it was costing people and the different places that it is impacting their lives. Applying for loans, we've talked about the predatory nature of the student loan system in the US, and they're preying on young people who don't really have their financial literacy together. Understanding credit cards, knowing to avoid um, things like payday loans, all of that kind of stuff. So that's what I wanted to talk about today, as this is April Financial Literacy Month. Um, I am curious, how do y'all feel? Um, about where you are with your financial literacy. Let me know in the comments. Like, do just don't overthink it. Just how do you feel? Do you think like, oh, I think I would probably I'd score high on that test, or maybe, what I didn't know didn't cost me that much money. I'm curious as to how y'all feel about your own personal financial literacy, like where you are in your life right now. Let me know in the comments. F doctor, I see a lot of people say this. Financial literacy needs to be taught at the secondary education level. It's a reason why the powers that be will not teach it in our schools. I don't know. Now, y'all know I was a secondary teacher for many, many years. I don't know. I my oldest child is about to be she's gonna be 27 this month. And these are some conversations we've had because her financial literacy, even though she's my child, is not where it should be. And she has expressed the same sentiment, like they should have taught it to us in school. And then one day I pressed her about it, and she was like, you know what? I wouldn't have listened. So I don't know. I don't know. Is this something that maybe should be taught at home and at school? We could be here all night. I could get on my soapbox about how the way and the things that people learn in school should be very much tied to real life kinds of things. But I definitely don't think that this is a schools only thing. I don't know. Okay. I'm looking at y'all's comments. Is it Kareen? Nope, I'd score low on that test. Oh, okay, Quinn. If I had financial literacy courses in high school, I for sure would not have taken out those student loans. Some of you are like, I know the basics. Some of you are like, girl, yeah, I know my stuff. Somewhere in the middle, or at least you think you know the basics. And that I have a list of notes of topics I want to talk about. And Alicia, Renice, you hit the first one. Um, Here's the thing. Whether Because I think a lot of folks are not where they want to be when it comes to financial literacy. And you don't know what you don't know. until you don't know it. And what I have found in doing the work that I do, working with clients, to understand their finances, to improve their financial situation, is that there's a lot of us who are like, "I don't know. I don't think I know." They're unsure, and there's a lot of shame that comes with that. There's a lot of finger pointing, like, "Oh, my parents didn't have their shit together, and, like, they dropped the ball and didn't teach me," which may be true. Um, or it's like embarrassment that maybe you don't know how, like, interest rate work, and you feel bad about it. And so one of the first things I want to say, to those of you who might be watching this now live, or maybe you are watching the replay in the future, hey, is that don't feel bad if you don't know. Even if at your big age, you don't know what you think you should know. Don't feel bad about it. Don't blame yourself. Don't finger point, because there are so many things that we don't know, okay? I agree with you, there is always more to learn. Janet, shambles, you're in shambles, I think that's a little strong, but that's okay, because we can we can do better, okay? And I think y'all are right that, parents don't really there are a lot of parents who don't really understand some things, and it's gonna be hard for them to point their kids in the right direction, even if, and I wish there was more of this, and I try to emulate this in my life with my children. um, Even if you don't know the right thing to do, if you figured out that the thing you're doing is the wrong thing, share that with the young people in your life, that like, "Hey, I took out this student loan. I should not have done that. This is why you shouldn't as well." Um, yeah, F doctor. It's the not talking about things at home that I think kind of already puts us at a disadvantage and gets us off on the wrong foot. Um, so let's talk about that. Okay. My son had the Dave Ramsey program in his high school, but we talked through it together. He still didn't understand insurances, health, life, car. It's a weird concept. It is. And I think if you don't have like a real life scenario, it's very hard to get those things. So, like there have been some schools that I've worked in that maybe had like a money unit in, I don't know, like in sometimes in what used to be called home ec. I think it's family consumer sciences now, or maybe a unit in a math class, and they would do it in junior high. At in eighth grade, those kinds of things are really abstract, like you said. So, uh, you know, I think it needs to be happening, like, when you're in it, when it is applicable. Think about it. When do you learn the best? Is when the stuff you're learning is most applicable. I cannot talk tonight for some reason. When it's most applicable to you. And so, I I don't know what that looks like, but there definitely needs to be something. And yes, it definitely can feel, um, intimidating. Francis says they aren't gonna teach financial literacy. They want to continue to filter people into debt so they have a workforce. There's that. Y'all also know that, if it's not tested, it's it's not worth teaching. And there is no standardized tests checking for financial literacy components. So the idea that it's going to be taught in schools and taught in schools in a meaningful way, I don't see it. I wish I wish we lived in a better world. Okay. All right. I'm trying to catch up on y'all's comments. So yeah. So, um, don't feel bad that you didn't know what you didn't know because we all been there. Um, I think we all need to commit to being a little bit more open and willing to share the things that we get wrong. Um, okay, I just caught up in the comments. All right. The next thing on my list. Okay, so don't feel bad. Don't blame yourself. And here's this is the thing. You can figure it out. You can learn the stuff you need to learn so that you can do better when it comes to your money. I think a lot of us feel like the people in my family didn't know what they were doing. Who am I? I'm just a fill in the blank. There are people who know more than me. I should relinquish control to someone who really knows what they're doing. Uh-uh. We don't do that around here. A fundamental, foundational thing that I believe is that anybody can learn this money stuff. Okay. Um, think about it this way. Who is going to care more about your money and your financial well-being than you? Nobody. There was a meme going around that was like, don't ever put your happiness in the hands of other people. They'll drop it every time. I think you can apply that to your financial well being as well. Like, even if you had all the money in the world, you could pay somebody to do these things, but are they going to care about your financial situation and how you end up in the end more than you do? I don't believe so. So, if there's nothing else that you come away with this April, this financial literacy month, it is yes, you are capable of doing this, of learning what needs to be learned. Okay? All right. And so, if you're capable of it, how do you get started? What do you do? Because you can control your financial future. I think the first thing is to figure out, well, stop avoiding it. Stop avoiding it, because how many I right this week, I am in the middle of doing the Get Started Investing Challenge, and one of the things that comes up every time I do the challenge is, we get to talking about, like, 401ks, 403bs, and all of that kinda stuff, and inevitably, somebody will be like, "Oh, yeah, I left this job. I had a 401k there, and they've been sending me those statements, but I don't ever open them. I just put them to the side because I don't know what to do." All right. So so first thing we got to do is kind of to stop avoiding the topic, avoiding the issue, and then figure out, try to pinpoint what is your biggest pain point? What is the because maybe you got a lot of money problems, okay? But which is the top of that list, okay? Out of sight, out of mind was a person. Yes, yes. I there's some things I avoid. So no, I empathize with them. Uh, and like I said, it comes up in every single time I do the challenge. Okay, so do a little activity where you have like a piece of paper, um, what have you, your whiteboard, anything like that, and just kind of write down like what you think the money problem is. For some people, it is debt. Like, if I didn't have all of this credit card debt, medical debt, student loan debt, whatever. If I didn't have all this debt, I could do X, Y, and Z. I could be in a much better place, what have you. For some folks, it's spending. Like, my debt situation is under control, but the minute that direct deposit hits, I've got it I've got it spent, and not in the way that best suits the life I wanna lead. Like, I'm spending the money, but it doesn't seem to be that I'm spending it on the things that I say matter to me, you know? Um, so is it debt? Is it that you're spending Is it that you're spending I don't wanna say your spending is out of control, but maybe that's who you are, like, you are spending more money than you bring in. That is a problem that needs to be addressed. Or maybe your spending situation is a little less extreme, and it's more about, um I say I want a house. I say I want a car. I say I want to buy my first rental property. But at the end of the month, at the end of the week, there's never money to go toward those goals. Then yeah, I would have to look at my spending and see where's my money going? What are my spending priorities? Even though, they may not align with what my life priorities are. So it could be debt, it could be spending, um, it could be income. Like, there just is not enough money coming in. But if you're cobbling things together and you're, using credit cards and as my as the folks used to say back in the day, robbing Peter to pay Paul, um, it might be an income thing. And if so, that requires a certain set of actions that need to be taken. Or is it, kind of like what I was talking about before, like you've identified certain financial goals that you have, but you're not making progress toward those. And you want this thing, but you can't quite figure out why you're not making progress. So that's where I would start. Is I'm not You cannot solve like all of your money problems at one fell swoop, especially if you're starting from a place of my financial literacy is not super strong. Trying to like revamp your entire life might be too much. So, um start small. Start with one thing. What is your top issue? What is your top problem? Your biggest pain point? Okay. So, after you do that, yes. Yes, Francine. Take it one problem at a time. Because it's very easy to get overwhelmed and to then lean back into that avoidance. Oops. Where was it? I saw Marissa. What'd you say? Avoidance as a coping strategy? Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So start with one thing. Okay. So you've identified one problem financially that you want to fix, one financial literacy gap you want to fill. What's your next move? Find some teachers, find some folks who know some stuff that can help teach you, that you can learn from. Now, something that I have learned the hard way, because that seems to be the only way I learn anything, is that when you are finding folks to learn from, you need to make sure that they're your kind of people, that what they're not what they're teaching, how they teach it aligns with you. You, the person, how you live your life. I'll give you an example. There are there's so many financial gurus, financial educators, bloggers, YouTubers, you name it. There's tons of them out there. And some of them are like teaching, like, you need all the money, like that you cannot retire with less than $10 million. Having a conversation with a friend the other day about some posts in a Facebook group where these people were really talking about, like, I just don't think I'd be comfortable if I had anything, if I didn't have at least $10 million. And then there was somebody chiming in like, is $10 million really enough? And I'm just like, y'all, at what point is enough enough? So somebody, a guru who's out there teaching that you have to do all of these extremely frugal things so that you can save up millions of dollars, like, that does not work with who I am as a person and my aversion to, like, hard work and those kinds of things. So, when you are looking for somebody to teach you about this thing you wanna know, make sure they are your kind of person. Do they have the same kind of values you do when it comes to money? Whether it's about making money, whether it's their attitude about debt. Somebody mentioned Dave Ramsey earlier. Uh, his viewpoint on debt is the antithesis. I'm not gonna say, do I wanna say the antithesis? I don't know, but it's a very extreme viewpoint, and I disagree. So, me trying to learn from this person, it's the things that they suggest aren't gonna feel right for me and how I live my life, okay? So, it's like you need to, for lack of a better term, you kind of need to interview. You need to evaluate these folks before you just start consuming their content. Like, look through what they post on socials, look through the information they have on their website. Do they sound like your kind of person? Do they get where you're coming from? As a person who worked in a very low paying career field for many, many years, a lot when I got into financial independence, the financial independence movement, a lot of the people who were blogging about it were people who made multiple six figures. The stuff they were talking about was not going to help me with my little bitty money. So you want to make sure that the kind of stuff they're talking about and the way they are talking about it makes sense for you. Okay. Um, yeah, these are not my people, because let me tell you, I firmly believe you can be financially independent with significantly less than $1 million if you live in the right place. So these $10 million people, these are not my people. Not at all. These people are not my people. Okay. All right. So, um we talked about make sure that they align with you and how you live, how you roll. Okay. So who are well, wait, let me see. Let me stop to see questions. Francine, you're right. It does depend on the lifestyle you want to live. And the lifestyle that these people want to live are so outside of anything. Like, I could want all of that. And in theory, I could have all of that, but the amount of work it would take, and we've discussed on this channel many times about how I choose to spend my time, and I am embracing rest and ease. Trying to get to $10 million and rest and ease do not go together. So I'm going to pick rest and ease over that. Okay. All right. So, some and I would also say, if you can find yourself out there, like if you are a Black woman and you want to learn from a Black woman, I say go for it. Try to do that. That's part. That's part of why I do this work is because I wish there was somebody who looked like me talking about these things when I was trying to figure it all out. Okay. So, who are some of my favorites? Um so like if you I mean, I don't know, maybe you're watching this and you're thinking, I like you, Adelia. Can I work with you? Um yeah, technically you can. Um Depends on what you want to learn. Uh I have this YouTube channel where I talk about money stuff. I mentioned that this week I am currently doing the Get Started Investing Challenge, which is a 6-day challenge geared toward novices. And it is exclusively for Black women. Black women are the least invested and we have the smaller numbers and we have the least amount invested, and so I started the challenge specifically to speak to that need. So if you are a Black woman, that may be something that is of interest to you. The next challenge is June, July. I don't know. It's on the website. Um, I also do one-on-ones. My schedule is back open for that, but also next month I am relaunching the Financial Confidence Academy, which is I can't quite find the word. It's a group program that runs for 6 months that the aim is to increase financial literacy and financial confidence. And that is open to uh, women of color, I guess we would say. So yeah. So then there's me. So maybe I resonate with you and you're like, I like what she says. But some other folks that I like, that may be of interest to you, like I would start on YouTube. There are some really good creators on YouTube. Um, Rich and Regular is a husband and wife couple. They have a podcast. They have a YouTube channel. If you attended Exodus Summit 2022, the wife, Kirsten, was the keynote speaker. They just published a book called Cashing Out. I like them. I also like, I'm trying to read my handwriting. I should have written this much more legibly. um, Y'all hear me talk about Paula Pant all the time. If you want like no nonsense, like this is how you do it, Paula Pant is your person. She is of Nepalese descent. She I think she graduated from college and she was working in journalism and I think she was making like $20,000 a year and she was like, "I can't. This is not going to do it." So she got into house hacking and real estate and she gives really good information um that's easy to understand, I think. And her platform, her YouTube channel, all of that is called Afford Anything. And her tagline is, "You can afford anything, not everything." And so it's about a lot of her stuff centers around like focusing on what is really important to you, um, and making the money moves necessary so that you can have that thing. So Rich and Regular, Paula Pant of Afford Anything. Um, The Broken Wallet is a YouTube channel run by a Black lady, and I cannot remember her name right now, but you want like, especially if budgeting is like trying to figure out where is my money going? What is it doing? Why am I doing this with my money? Her videos are really good about those kinds of topics. Her channel is called Broken Wallet. Um, And my next or my last YouTube recommendation, they, I'm not sure if it's just I think she has a team. I don't think it's just her. Um, Clever Girl Finance. They got a YouTube channel. I believe they have a podcast. Um, they also have go to their website. They have free courses. Like all of the courses on the Clever Girl Finance website are free. And there are printables. Like if you are like, I am just getting started, I need like remedial money 101, go to the Clever Girl Finance website. They will get you sorted. Um, I know this is probably going to say something about my age because I was going to say Facebook. Now, y'all, I can't tell you who the money folks are on TikTok because I am not on TikTok. I will not be on TikTok. That ain't ever going to happen. But I can tell you some cool spaces to hang out in on if you are a Black woman on Facebook and you want to learn about money, you want to be around other Black women who are doing money things and talking about money. Um, Again, trying to read my own handwriting here. How could we forget? Fire Over 50. That is our friends over at Our Black Utopia, Halisi and Rick. That is their Facebook group. Um, Oh, I forgot Our Rich Journey when I was talking about YouTube. Y'all know them, don't you? The husband and wife, former government employees, they moved to Portugal, early retirement, real estate. That's their jam. On Facebook, I like Fire Over 50, uh, Women's Personal Finance. Now that group, it is a big group. So it is not exclusively Black. However, um, they have Black women, women of color on the moderating panel, and they don't put up with the shenanigans that we see in a lot of large Facebook groups, if y'all know what I'm saying without me saying it. Um, Even though it is a large Facebook group, they do not put up with those kind of shenanigans. So I have felt like it is a safe space to ask questions and post things and get advice. So, women's personal finance, your wealth guidance is, oh, and her name is slipping my mind right now. She's got a YouTube channel as well. It is I would say it's a Black women's finance group. So, Fire Over 50, Women's Personal Finance, Your Wealth Guidance, Women of Color Pursuing FI, and FI is financial independence. Um, the name tells you there. I've liked the time that I have spent in that group, and um, I get I get a lot of questions about, like, stock trading and because again, I told y'all know me. You know that I'm always going to say, "What is the most relaxed way I can do this thing?" I am not like, "Ooh, let me pour over all of these reports and do all of this analysis so I can pick the right." Thank you. Not Portend. Rosalind. I couldn't remember her name. Y'all know I'm not like what's the easy no muss no fuss way to manage money? That's what I'm about. So this group I don't get a whole lot for, but I like that it is a place for Black women who are into trading or want to get into trading and learning more about individual stocks. And that group is called Stocks and Stilettos. Again, as a safe space for Black women. So I've given you some of my favorite spots on YouTube, some of my favorite places on Facebook. I see y'all in the comments dropping some of your favorites as well. I appreciate that. Um, And I'll close out this little segment of our conversation with saying this. Okay, so I told you, don't feel bad, don't feel ashamed, don't blame yourself. Okay? You don't know what you don't know. Figure out what is your biggest problem right now. That may change, and that's fine. Figure out what your biggest problem is right now, and then find somebody you can learn from. And I gave you some places to start. The people in the comments have given you some places to start. I'll leave you with this. What's important is that you make progress. You don't have to be perfect at this. You don't have to don't wait like, "Oh, I've gotta study this, I've gotta study that, I've gotta study this before I make a move." Progress over perfection, okay? So, if debt is the problem that you are dealing with and you have a mountain of debt, and the best you can do right now is to pay like, to stop adding to that mountain of debt, that's an achievement. It may not seem like a whole lot because you still have all of this outstanding debt, but you're not adding to it. That's progress. Knock down one of those credit card bills. You might have 15 more, but the fact that you knock down the one, progress over perfection. Okay. So I'm going to go back now and look at your comments because I think there were a few questions in there, and we'll see what's what. Okay. There were a few that I marked. Okay, Yolanda Marie, I'm so glad that I realized that it was wise to invest in my company 401k and added the 403b. It really saved me. I was able to retire at 61 and now living well off my savings. That's another reason I do this is because when I got my first real adult job, nobody told me nothing about anything about the fact that I worked in an industry at a place where I was not paying into Social Security. So, from what I had heard being out in the world, Social Security, that's what you get when you retire. Except I wasn't going to get it. Um, I didn't know about 401ks, 403bs. I didn't understand what it was, what I should be doing, any of that. And you would think that when you come onto a job, that would be somebody's job to make sure you knew those things. In my experience, it was not. So that is one of the reasons I started doing this work. Okay. If you have a 401k at your job and you leave the job, can you transfer that to a company like Charles Schwab or Fidelity? You absolutely can. That is called a rollover. And my personal opinion is when you leave an employer, unless their offerings were amazing, you should probably roll over your money either to your new company or to your own account, like you said, at Schwab or Fidelity. Big fan of the rollover. I actually rolled over my teacher pension. And Alma says I need to save up an emergency fund and investment money. Um, I just want to say this about emergency funds. A lot of the money people will talk about like you need to have an emergency fund, and you do. And they will give you a number. Some of them will say you need to have $1,000. I know Dave Ramsey was very famous for that. And he got a lot of criticism because people were like, well, what's $1,000 going to do? It's going to do what it's supposed to do because as somebody who's not had money, there's a big difference between I got $0 and at least I got $1,000 to help go toward whatever this emergency was. Remember what I said about progress over perfection? I think a lot of times when we hear like, oh, you need to have 6 months of expenses saved up in your emergency fund, you're like, I can barely eat. How in the hell am I going to save up 6 months of expenses? It's not an all or nothing thing. Commit to contributing $10. The next month, make it $25, so on and so forth. Because whatever money you are able to set aside until you can reach whatever your emergency fund goal is, whatever money you have managed to set aside, it will come in handy during the emergency because it will be better than empty pockets. Trust me on that. Okay. Yeah. So that's I last week's newsletter, I was like, "Oh, it's uh financial literacy month," and I recounted the story that kind of like led to me doing this kind of work, and it got me fired up. And then at the same time, I was speaking to somebody who I am hoping will be willing to be a guest on the channel to talk about some some bad financial advice they got. But, folks don't often like to come out publicly and say, "Hey, I got this bad financial advice and I made this mistake." But I'm hoping that they will agree to do that because it's the thing that nobody talks about. And I get fired up about those things. Like, why aren't we talking about these things? Why aren't there more conversations? So yeah, I get fired up over this stuff. Okay, let's see. What other questions do we have in here? I recently started with a financial planner, but one of his recommendations and the inability of his office staff to keep an appointment straight is giving me pause. Um, Monica, i- did you have a conversation with this financial planner about their fiduciary obligations? Are they your fiduciary? And what that means is that they put your best interests first when they make a recommendation. If you haven't had that conversation with them, it is very possible that the recommendation that they are making because it will make them money. Maybe it'll do you some good too, but what's important to them is that it makes you money. So, if you're going to work with somebody whose job or what you're paying them for is to give you advice, you need to know that the advice they give will be for your benefit and not their financial gain. So, if you haven't had that conversation with them, definitely, if it ain't feeling good, find you somebody else to work with. There's too many folks out here. And that's another thing. Um, I think because so many of us have these feelings and emotions tied to talking about money, whether it's the perception of like, I should know more, I should have more, that we often will kind of step back, hand over the reins to our finances to somebody else because we defer to them because we think they know better. But there's something in us that's like, this don't feel right. And if it don't feel right, don't do it. Find somebody else. There my mama used to say all the time, my money is green everywhere. So if you are dealing with somebody in a financial way, and this can be true if we're talking about loan officers, like you're trying to get a mortgage. I've done that where folks you want me to take my business somewhere else? Talk down to me and be condescending and call me things like little lady. Because when I was married, I was the person who knew the money stuff. He was clueless. But because he was the man, they would all zoom in on it. And I was like, we're not dealing with these people. We will go get a mortgage somewhere else. So if it's not feeling right, you can go somewhere else. Your money's green everywhere. Okay, hold on, y'all. I am Y'all are coming through with all these questions in here, and I'm not there yet. So hold on. Let me try and get there. Okay. Um, my problem is that I want freedom. I don't want to work every day of every week all year round. I want to make my money in 6 to 9 months and go travel. You can do that. It might take some shifting in how you structure your life. Like, I can't think of a really good example, but like what was it? 8 years ago? Oh, good lord. 8 years ago, when I decided that I was not going to stay at the job that I was at, and I didn't have a plan. I didn't have like, "Oh, I've got these skills. I'm gonna go do that." I just knew I wasn't gonna do that no more, and if I had to work at Starbucks, I would. Now, if I would have worked at Starbucks, I would have had to change some things about my life. Like, I probably would not be able to afforded to stay in an apartment by myself. I probably would have had to move in with somebody, get a roommate, that sort of thing. So that's what I mean by like, there may be some structural things that have to change, but you can definitely create a life like that. I believe you can. Okay. Um, okay. I feel like I'm coming in on the tail end of a conversation, so I'm trying to see, are y'all talking to me? Or are y'all talking to somebody else? Okay. When you roll over your money, doesn't that mean you have to invest it? Okay, it depends. You could own things in your account. It's like moving from an apartment to a house, right? Um, when you move out of the apartment, do you have to sell everything and then start over brand new when you move to the new house? No. There are a lot of things that were in your apartment that will work in your new house. The same thing is true when you roll over an IRA, or I mean a 401k or a 403b. There are a lot of those things that you don't. It's just you're just changing the address. It used to be at Vanguard, now it's going to be at Fidelity. There may be some things that will not work in the new place and that you do have to sell. And for those things that you have to sell, that money is in the new account, and then you pick some new investments and you go on about your business. Um, does bankruptcy affect moving abroad? Um, Not really. The vast majority of countries that I am familiar with do not, like, your credit situation in the US has no application elsewhere. Like, when I got my apartment 3 years ago, they call it an investigation here, but I think it was a credit check. And I was like, what y'all gonna find? I don't have credit history here. Um, Now, Kina Williams is living in South Africa, and for part of her, I think it was part of her residency, she had to provide, it was either her residency or when she rented her first apartment there, she had to provide like a credit check or something like that. And that was the first time I'd ever heard about that, where your US credit mattered in another country. On the whole, it doesn't matter. So there are people, because I saw somebody say F them student loans. There are people who have said F them student loans, F them credit cards, move to another country, and they're just like, America can sort out that credit them. Now that is a choice. That is an option. But if there are people who are like, "Oh, I'll just charge up a bunch of stuff and then leave." That is a choice. Now, you may find yourself in a situation where you have to return to the US, and that stuff will be there waiting for you when you get back. But as far as an impact abroad, so much. Not that I know of. Not that I know of. Okay. Y'all know I'm all about the analogy. I had to teach 14-year-olds, and so I had to be able to explain things in a different way. Okay, so I saw this conversation. Okay, okay. Um, is cash still king in this economy? I saw a couple of questions. I've actually got some people who DM'd me like, "Aren't you going to talk about what's happening with the dollar?" Um, I'm not because what's happening like, here's the thing. What is happening right now in the US economy, there's not a whole lot that an individual person, can do about it. If and we probably are, but if we are in another recession, like, there are the things you can do to minimize problems during a recession, like limit your debt, make sure that you've got a savings cushion, those kinds of things. But this idea that, like, oh, the dollar is about to collapse, you need to buy gold. Um, who takes gold bars as payment? I've mentioned this to y'all before. Here in Mexico City, there was a girl, I think she was German or Israeli. She needed to buy a airfare, a flight to go back home because of some emergency, and she didn't have cash, but she had these little small gold bars. Who's taking those gold bars? So, like, I think this is what if you're concerned about the current state of things, bank failures, the decline of the dollar, because currencies go up and down in value. Like right now, the Mexican peso is kicking my ass. But there are times when the dollar kicks the peso's ass. If you I encourage you to seek out information from a variety of sources. Um, don't just take these sound bites that people are making into reels and TikTok videos. Remember that on the news, they are going to go with what is most sensational, even though it may not have any basis in economics. Um, and it's a very complex thing, which is one of the reasons I haven't spoken on it in this way, is because it's a complicated thing. There are lots of things going on. I know there were a lot of people who were like, the dollar's in decline. China just signed this agreement to use yuan here, here, and there. But you know who's the biggest holder of US dollars? China. So do you think China is going to get everybody to take the yuan and accept it and, like, use it in all these other things, and they're just gonna let the dollar collapse when they are the biggest holder of dollars? That doesn't make sense. More likely than not, what China is doing is an effort to shore up their own economic situation because they've signed off on tons of bad loans through their, what is it? Not road and bridge project. It has some kind of big name, but basically, you've heard all these stories about how China is giving all these countries loans in Africa and other places. Well, they gave a bunch of people there's a universal rule when it comes to lending money. People who have bad credit for a reason. And that, I think, applies to countries as well. These countries who got loans from China, guess what? A lot of them can't pay back those loans. And so China gave loans to people they probably shouldn't have. And so when you are the holder of bad loans, you got to look at other things to do. So I'm saying all of that to say that it is a very complicated thing and there are lots of moving parts. And I have not heard or read anything that has me incredibly worried. So I'll say that. Belt and Road Initiative. That's what it is. I was like, Road and Bridge, Belt and Road Initiative. That's what it is. Okay. Let's see. Um, Question. Since you brought up the USD with renting in Mexico, would you recommend renting in USD now versus the peso? Absolutely not. Um, we're in a moment right now where I'm on the losing end of the conversion, but I have a hard time. Anybody who wants to rent me a property in USD, like, we're in Mexico, with the exception of Polanco in Mexico City, because all of the real estate prices are in USD. I wanna say, have always been. That something about that just don't sit right with me. That seems like that benefits the landlord far more than it would benefit me. So no. So, yeah, like, my rent has gone up, that's unfortunate, but I don't feel like, "Oh, no, I wish my rent was in USD." No, I don't like something about that don't feel right with me. Okay. I'm trying to go back to see if there's some other questions. Um, Lauren, you are in the process of finding a tax strategist and a CPA who specializes in expat tax issues before I move abroad. Giving myself was it 2 weeks ago? Last week? Y'all know time don't work right for me. I interviewed Sandra Morno, who is a tax strategist specifically, who works with Black women who live abroad and who travel long term. And next month in May, I'm going to have another tax person. I can't remember if she's a CPA or not, but I'm going to have somebody else. So you might want to check out the video. I think it's called Break Up with Uncle Sam. That's what it says on the thumbnail. Let's see. I'm back to see. Rent versus buy. The older I get, I want to commit to a 15-year or a 30-year mortgage. I have had a 15-year mortgage. I've had a 30-year mortgage. Um, I I think this is a personal thing. Like, do you feel like I wish I owned this place? I I do me, Adelia, in este momento, in this life right now, I don't want to own anything. I don't want to be locked down. I like the idea that if I so choose, I could leave and go elsewhere, wherever elsewhere happens to be. So I think it's a personal thing. I don't think there is a like uh if you buy now, you will save this much money or you'll return this much money, so on and so forth. Um, I think it's just kind of personal thing. Like, how do you feel about that? Um, bum, bum, bum. Okay. If I sell an individual stock and put it in an IRA, can I avoid the capital gain? No. Because if the individual stock is where is the individual stock currently held? If it is in your brokerage accounts, no. If that stock is already in the IRA, you don't need to sell it to avoid the capital gain. But if you sell it and it is currently in the IRA, are you 59 and a half? But if it's in the brokerage account, no, you're not going to get around that. Latasha, I rolled over, I'm assuming a 401k or something, after leaving a company, but I don't know what to do with it now. The amount hasn't changed much. I feel like it's literally just sitting there collecting dust. It might be. Did you open the statements? Did you have to sell things before they rolled it over? Or did they just move the stuff you had in the apartment to the new house? Because if there's cash sitting in there that you have not invested, then yeah, you need to do something about that. But if it was just moving the boxes from the old house to the new house and it hasn't changed much, that might not be as bad as you think. Because I logged into my Fidelity account and it has changed a lot and not in a good way. It is down. So, if it's all invested and it hasn't changed too much, that might not be a bad thing. Okay. Okay. I don't see. Okay. I don't know, Levita Star, if I am qualified to answer this question. No debt, living overseas, you saving to buy an old house, no mortgage, maintenance is expensive, money is gone. Love the freedom, but did I ruin myself financially? When it smooth out in the long run? I don't know. You bought, did you buy the house overseas? Um, is this going to provide you a place to live for the rest of your life? Because if that's the case, like the costs benefit analysis of that needs to be figured in. Like what when you bought the house, what was the goal? Was it just simply to provide shelter? Was it to be like were you intending to rent it out? So I don't know. Okay. I think that's it there. Whoops. Okay. Oh, okay, now it's scrolling down. Okay. Lavita, I see your question about do you qualify? Do you live your life as a black woman? Do you think you're a black woman? If the answer to that question is yes. Um, Now, my investing challenge is specifically for black women because it's important to me that the group coaching part of that be a safe place for black women. If you know you don't identify as a black woman, um, the Financial Confidence Academy, which relaunches next month, if you go to the link in the description, you can get on the wait list. Um, that is open to women. So it's you tell me who you are. Let's see. Um, Nina, is this question for me? I don't know. Okay. Oh, okay. Hold on, y'all. I'm still trying to catch up. Okay. All right. We've talked about this, but thank you for bringing it up again, Leticia. For those of you that have student loans, I encourage you to apply for public service loan forgiveness. Personal testimony, 35,000 forgiven this month. Um, I interviewed Tiffany. This had to have been a year or two ago about it's like, can you move abroad with student loans? Um, she did public service loan forgiveness abroad, and I think she had close to 200 grand forgiven. But if you're thinking, I don't work for the public service, the public good, I'm leaving the US and I'm not trying to work. Okay. Before you leave the US, we've talked about this before, make sure you get on an income based repayment plan. Because when you live outside the US and you can qualify for the FEIE, the foreign earned income exemption, your income, as far as Uncle Sam will be concerned, will be $0. And if you are in an income based repayment plan, guess how much your loan payment is going to be? $0. Okay. Okay. Question. My house is on my land in Texas. I want to sell it and move abroad, but has been told to just hold it and rent. What do you think, Adelia? Who told you to keep it and rent it? Who told you that? Why did they tell you that? Was this a friend or a family member? Was this someone you paid to get their advice? Um, do you wish to be a landlord? I've done a couple of interviews on here, one with Kina Williams, who lives in South Africa, but in that interview isn't just about her life in South Africa. It's also about how she set up her house in Oxnard, California as a rental and how she vetted people and did all of that. I also interviewed Charisma Freeman, who is a landlord. She invests in real estate, how she manages that. I am a failed landlord. I absolutely hated being a landlord. So you'd have to give me $1 billion if you wanted me to be somebody's landlord. So my question is, why did they tell you to rent it? How do you feel about renting it? Does that align with the life you envision for yourself? Because you don't whenever somebody gives you advice, if that advice don't feel right for you, don't follow it. Ultimately, you've got to do what feels right for you. Okay. Okay. For public student loan, was it PSLF, doesn't it take 10 years of payments before they forgive it? I believe so. But if you are outside the US and your loan payment is $0, it's however many years of making payments of $0. Or even if you're not on that, if you're not on PSLF and you're just on an income-based repayment plan, um, isn't it after 20 years they write off the loan? Either way, you can wait the loan out if if that's the thing that's keeping you from going. Yeah. Okay. This person is called a financial advisor. I'm gonna tell you like I told Monica. Have y'all had a conversation about this person's fiduciary responsibility? Because just because they work at your bank doesn't mean they are looking out for you. They because y'all know banks are businesses. They need people to buy financial products. I'm not saying that's what was happening, but I think a lot of times, just like we defer to people in positions of authority, people with letters behind their names, sometimes we will defer to the folks at the bank because we're like, they work at the bank, but the bank still needs to make money. So, if this person is a financial advisor, are they a licensed financial advisor? They are certified. They should be able to tell you what their situation is as far as their fiduciary responsibility. And based on their answer, if you don't like that answer, find somebody else to talk to. Okay. All right. You answered your own question here. They're more about keeping the land more so than the house. I want complete ease. There you go. You answered your own question. Okay. I think I think I've gotten to most of the big questions. All right. So, um, those of you who maybe, because most of tonight we've been talking about folks who've got like big issues, like Letitia's question, which strategy do you recommend to eliminate debt? Most of tonight has been about answering these kinds of questions or speaking to these people. I'm going to answer this question, then I'm going to come back to what I was going to say. This is going to sound like a non-answer, but this is for real my answer. Which way feels best to you? Here's the thing. I don't believe in giving people advice that work for me and like this is the way you have to do it. No, because big piece of this whole financial thing is psychology. It is mental. I can give you the plan, but if it don't sit right with your spirit, you're not going to follow it. So, you have to think about how you feel when you look at your credit card debt. Are you somebody who it's the sheer number of credit cards or the sheer number of debt that, like, if I could just get one of them paid off, I would feel better and that would encourage me to keep going. If that's the way to go, snowball. If you're like, "No, I need to know I hate paying interest." This is me. I hate paying interest. So I will look at which of these cards not necessarily has the biggest balance, but which one is charging me the most interest there and therefore costing me the most. Let me eliminate that one first. So you have to think about who you are and what is going to keep you motivated. The way I paid off credit card debt was I just picked a card and I just plowed all the money at it. Of course, stop using it first. That's number one. I plowed all the money at it. For some people, they need that feeling of accomplishment of this card is paid off. This card is paid off. If not seeing a lot of progress because you're paying off the one with the highest balance first and not seeing any progress, if that's going to make you feel bad and that's going to make you lose enthusiasm, then that's not the way to go for you. That's not the way to go. Um, so for those of you who maybe you don't have any big pain points. You don't have a lot of debt. Your spending is okay. Um, the income is meeting what the income needs to do. Does that mean there's nothing for you to do this month for financial literacy? No, that's not true. We just talked about how there's always more to learn. There are, all of this stuff is nuanced. So even if you don't have a major financial pain point now, do you know all the things you want to know? Do you fully understand what you're doing with that 401k? Do you get like, you know, I'm helping my daughter do her taxes, and every year we talk about her escrow on her mortgage. Do you have escrow on a mortgage? Is that the best move for you? Do you understand how that works? So I'm saying all of this to say there's still stuff to learn. So it would be awesome. It would be great. I challenge you to, for this month, pick a topic that you want to know more about, financially speaking, and find somebody that talks about that. Learn a little bit more. Join one of the Facebook groups. Find somebody on YouTube, whatever. But even if you don't have a major pain point, there's still space to increase our financial literacy. Okay. All right. I think that is where we are going to stop tonight. Thank y'all for coming out and hanging out with me and asking great questions and being uh, a wonderful audience as always. I love this. The more I learn, the more I learn what I don't know. Absolutely. Knowledge is power. And it is, I would say, I'll speak for myself here. It is that drive to know things. Rashida always teases me about like, you say something in front of me, I can rattle off a fact, I can connect it to this thing because for me, it has always been about knowing things, because if I got this stored up knowledge, I can solve some problems, I can work some magic. So I want you, all of you, for this month to find some piece of financial literacy that you can learn more about. Okay. Thank you all for being here. Like Auntie Lou said, if you enjoyed this, hit the like button. That way, hopefully, that tells YouTube that y'all like this and that, um, you know, the algorithm will do what it does, and this video will get to somebody who needs it. Um, I will probably see y'all on Tuesday because I will be flying on Wednesday. Bye, guys.